Hello again, our friends. This is going to be a quick little Earth change update on EEARTS, and we hope you guys are having an awesome day. Thank you for subscribing to all 3 channels.
Indeed, and welcome back.
Welcome one, welcome all to the great apocalyptic unveiling. Yes, there's so much going on. So, where to start? Well, we got a 4.6 over in Bulgaria, and then a little bit farther in over in Romania, we have a 4.7. Our brother Zach, I wonder if you felt this. He is over. He's usually in Colorado. He's in Bulgaria, and he's visiting family, which is a lovely thing. I'd say there's several things that really caught my eye. Let me go to the one that really caught my eye. Though there are several. Zeroing in, we have quite a quake swarm going on over in Mount Hood. This is right on Mount Hood, and we have 28 quakes here. And if we are looking, they are very, very small, and they are relatively shallow, 2.3, 1.3 kilometers, 3.4, 2.9. They're fairly consistent and shallow. Is it any sort of magma intrusion going on? Perhaps. Again, the reason why it really draws my eye is back in, it was early December, I think. I think early December this year. The guides showed us 1.5 years. They showed us what looked like Pacific Northwest volcanoes going off and war on U.S. soil. So that's why it really causes me to look very closely because, as you can see, these are glaciers. Now, when Cindy saw the vision of the volcano going off, she didn't see any snow. Being glaciers, these are areas that are covered in ice. Now, of course, if there was an eruption, it could melt the ice. So, we thought that it looked the most like Mount Shasta, but it definitely felt Pacific Northwest. So we wanted to call this out to your attention. There's been a lot of curious little smaller quakes, but showing signs of activity as we've seen a real increase in volcanic activity lately.
Right, and if you're someone who's over in the area, I would definitely encourage you to pay attention to the area. Is there any sulfur smell? Are things heating up? So you really want to just read your own energy while you're over there. I'm picking up that it's probably just a release, but since I'm not there with feet on the ground, I can only tell you to listen to your gut as far as what you think is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have family, up in Idaho. Cindy herself was born right on the Canadian border up here in Idaho. And, again, Idaho we do feel is a pretty good state, but, it's going to get colder. It is challengingly cold in the winter there as it is through, the northern central part of the U.S. When we do have all these volcanoes going off, things are going to get cooler, and that's part of the big, reason that you might snicker there's many reasons why you might snicker when you hear, global warming. We are going to be faced with extremes, and, right now there's a lot going on. The other thing that you will see is, which we get often, swarms in Hawaii. And let's see, how much do we have here? 86 going off right now in Hawaii as, Kilauea is showing signs. Increased earthquake activity, ground deformation at Kilauea as well. There's going to be a lot going off. Mount Hood is one of the ones that's most likely to erupt. And the elevation is 11,249 feet. I think we're going to see some serious changes, and I'm sensing, one thing I've always sensed is just, I think when we're hit with some of these things, these bigger events, we're not going to know exactly what's going on at first. I think there's going to be confusion. And is it natural? I mean, was that Cascadia? Was that Mother Earth going? Or was it one of those Russian, underwater tsunami BOMBs? Or multiple ones, which I think is the case. It's going to be multiple ones kicking off. Again, just more reason to prepare and prepare and prepare. Meanwhile, over in New York, Toronto, Ottawa, all three of those cities, residents are warned that if you go outside, it's equivalent to smoking 6 cigarettes in the course of 24 hours. That's how bad the air pollution is right now. And there's many of us that wouldn't dream of smoking, and yet the equivalent is happening right now from all those fires up in eastern Canada, which spontaneously came up out of nowhere. Is it volcanic fields in Canada? Again, we do know that there's a lot of people out there who've done some amazing research, been with us for years. We're talking about, they are talking about the craton and the craton shifting and massive changes coming in. Yeah, and then also, you could light fires with matches.
I know, and it's something that we have to realize, if Mother Earth doesn't want to hurt anyone, she's not going to. And if she's put in a position where she's unable to hold her energy, you can bet she is being irritated, she is being agitated, and she is bound. So we have to take everything into consideration, because we're just like the animals. We have that sense to pick up when there is something wrong, because the earth sends out a signal. But unfortunately, it might be a signal from a different place that is irritating her.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we can only hold on so long when somebody's tickling our nose with a feather before we have to sneeze. And the eastern U.S. and central Canada are suffering through one of the worst wildfire smoke events in recorded history. New York City and Toronto have among the top 7 worst air qualities of any major city on Earth with what's happening right now. Who would have thunk that you would have wildfire smoke hazards in New York City, Philadelphia, Bridgeport, Connecticut, New Jersey? It's not one of the things that comes to mind. But in these times, you can't predict these things. This looks like a nor'easter, the way that the rotation is going on here. And it's pulling the smoke straight on down and into one of the heaviest, most populated areas on the planet, certainly in North America. Mexico City is the most populous city in the Western Hemisphere. But, New York City, 8 million people. A lot of people down there that are being told you should avoid going outdoors. You're going to taste the smoke. Your eyes are going to burn. And this is on top of, most people, whether it's a slight majority or a heavy majority, depending on what state you're in, you have compromised immune systems going on. So everything is going to irritate and affect you more. 98 million people on the East Coast under air quality alerts from Canadian fires. This is Bernie Sanders, by the way. Bernie Sanders. And last night, New York City had the worst air quality in the world. Climate change makes wildfires more frequent and widespread. Yeah, it's a hard time to act. Climate change. And it's like they're all jumping on this, saying this is climate change. This is arson, you idiots.
Yeah. Well, both sides are going to keep pushing the agenda, and they make themselves very, very clear day after day after day that they're perpetuating this entire thing, even though there might appear to be two sides. There's not.
And, we're not calling you guys idiots. We're talking about the, Bernie Sanders, all the parrots, and they're nothing but parrots, that have been told to go out there, and every third sentence you say, it's got to have climate change phrase in it. Whatever you're talking about. Oh, the pizza in New York was great, but the climate change ruined the pepperoni.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. Again, this is just so blatantly obvious. It's mind-blowing. As you see Ursula here, you're going to be talking about The Paris Agreement goal: limit global warming by 1.5 degrees Celsius. Stop starting fires. You know, I mean, you know, again, we understand how this works. It's pretty obvious. Yeah. Meanwhile, heavy rains, fatal floods strike northern Algeria. It's not just northern Algeria. We have many areas that are desert terrains that are being flooded severely. You know, there are great changes underway, some of which are natural, most of which are augmented, and some of which are completely driven by technology. Severe floods, landslides hit Turkey's Black Sea region. The Black Sea's, you know, in the news because it's the center point in many ways of the conflict going on. Black Sea area is fascinating too because you do find elongated skulls, which are associated with Homo capensis, there, and you find the same skulls over in Paracas, in Peru. It's kind of crazy because we're told there's no way, you know, people that were genetically related could be in Turkey and then in Peru because, you know, nobody had the technology back in those days, but we know by their haplogroups, their DNAs are intertwined. Again, it's all part of that distortion about our past. 4 killed, 32 injured after a 4.9 quake hits Haiti, so it shows you it doesn't have to be big to be deadly. And Haiti is, again, one of the most impoverished places on the planet. So for all those that are suffering, we send our prayers and best intentions. Negotiators are at the UN in Bonn, Germany, prepared December's COP28 climate summit. Big protest underway outside denouncing fossil fuel industry capture and calling to kick big polluters out. You know, again, we don't even need the fossil fuels. They've utilized the fossil fuels for a long time just to, you know, put in place certain things. And one of those things is sabotaging safe zones. Like if you look to the Four Corners area, you find fracking everywhere. It's just so fracked. Texas fracked. Louisiana and Arkansas and many areas. I mean, fracking's everywhere. And all the deep sea, you know, oil rigs that are out there in the Gulf too, when they understand that, and look at Oklahoma. I mean, look at all the quakes in Oklahoma. Those aren't natural. You know, when we look to these areas and see what's happening, it's like laying minefields. It's literally laying minefields is what they've done. So if we look at 30 days, look at all these quakes. This is due to fracking. The vast majority of this is completely due to fracking. And the other thing that fracking does is, again, it poisons the groundwater. So that's going to lead to more cancer, as well as weakened immune systems. It's all part of the bigger plan. Sure, it would be wonderful to get rid of this industry. You know, the only reason they're doing it now is because they have another agenda they're shifting to. And we do see a lot of people with good hearts, you know, putting in amazing work. As you see, Leslie Dart planted 4,545 trees in a day. 4545 99 18 19 189. So again, yeah, there's a lot of numerology going on. And, you know, there's a lot of people with good hearts that are doing good works, but then also get subverted sometimes into different agendas without really understanding it. So we trolled HRC a little bit as, you know, she was putting out there something again about a certain agenda that's underway. And so we posted a lot of this in pieces under her tweet. Yeah, everything we see going on has been predicted before. This was 1984. We've talked all about it. You know, destruction of America from within. But, you know, Rome, same thing. One empire after another. When they serve their usefulness and they have to uproot and plant the system yet again anew somewhere else, they do. And then, you know, what it does is it's constantly recycling, and new people all of a sudden come up to the top position and have, you know, all of a sudden an increased quality of life, while other people become the third world countries. This constant recycling and moving and supplanting the system with yet another oppressive system just leads to people that have, had suffered deep wrongs, and then they have deep resentments. And just as you have, some Ukrainians that now, don't view there as being any good Russians, this is what they do to turn us on each other. And it's, it does work, unfortunately, to a high degree.
It really does, because the controllers have a very keen understanding of how the human mind works, and how we are going to respond, and how we are going to navigate certain situations. So they're really big into taking advantage of any single thing they can get. And when we see this demoralization coming around, well, once you understand the pattern, you can see it, you know what to expect, and then you just kind of step out of the way, let that freight train do its thing, but you find your safe space and do what you need to do for you and your family. Find that happy place so that you might be able to rest.
Yeah, and this little guy, he just doesn't want to fall asleep yet. He's got work to do here. And that's how it is with many of us. There's no rest for the weary. Yet the work really hasn't even started yet, guys. It really hasn't. The work is just right ahead of us. Not to be disconcerting. It's more a call to preparation in every way, shape, and form that you can. And I know, we harp on this, and I harp on this. Cindy's more gentle than I am. She's wonderful and nice and sweet and nurturing. And sometimes I could be just very, very obtuse and straightforward, and I don't maybe sugarcoat it as well. But I don't think there's time for sugarcoating. So do what you can do where you are. Consider all options. Again, these times are not just going back to anything that we've had before. They're only moving forward from here. So, again, we do have time to make sure we're on the right path. And that right path is one of freedom. And it is one of being able to self-determine what you want to do and how you want to do it, to be your own unique individual. You're not going to be that in the plans of the system. And their goal is to herd you straight on into one of their control grids, because they just simply want to utilize you as a resource. But your goal, hopefully, will be seeking freedom, however that looks for you. Again, self-sufficiency, not being part of this. Cindy was just sharing a story of a local lady that simply is doing eggs on Goodwill. If you bring a box, egg carton, just lay $3 in the bin and take a dozen eggs. And if you bring a box, take $1 off. So she does it totally on Goodwill. And if people don't pay, she's not sweating it. And that's the type of world we're heading for. And I know that sounds inconceivable to some people, but no, it's going to be like that. The people that are going to band together and support each other are really going to live a heart-centered life. They're not going to be all about hoarding energy, hoarding supplies, hoarding, all these different things for themselves. They're going to be truly about, putting out a helping hand and helping somebody in a time of need. Yes, we have to be very aware that there are going to be opportunistic people. There are going to be parasitic people that can portray themselves as being, in time of need, but only, looking out to then sabotage you later. So we do have to build that discernment. That is critical. And the only way you could build that discernment is with a regular spiritual practice and with heightening your perceptive abilities. That again means, not taking in, imbibing all sorts of toxins, inflammatory foods, things like excessive alcohol and prescription, as well as illegal versions of the DURGSs. All the above could most definitely make it hard for you to perceive with clarity the intentions of beings around you. But this is a golden opportunity because we are really in a paradigm shift here. The world is changing, and we can choose to go down the path that leads to truly blossoming into a life that you want to manifest for yourself and your loved ones, and linking up with those individual cells, those individual souls that are out there on the same journey, that really do respect individuality.
Mm-hmm. And, I like the way that we give information. I mean, sometimes people need a more straightforward approach. Sometimes people might be in a situation where they're waking up, but they have issues and they have problems, so they need to hear information from a whole nother approach. But we do try to provide that to the best of our ability, knowing that people need to hear things in different ways. But the most important thing is that they find their truth and they hear that thing the way they need to hear it, so that they can help themselves, help their family, because this is very personal to both Mike and I. I mean, we don't do this just to try to be bullies or to make people do things. Not at all. We do this because we don't want to see people hurt in the way that we have seen other people, have really bad things happen to them. So we like to set out a path, and however you walk that path doesn't really make a difference. The difference is made when you walk it, period. So different information for different people comes very, very helpful, and it's from our hearts. This is very heart-centered information that we send out to you with love and understanding and kindness to the best of our abilities, because we know that there's a different way to do things. Things don't have to be done the way the mainstream says they need to be done. We can get together and work together, even with all of our falses, and we can do it beautifully by leaning on each other and giving each other support and understanding. I think the control system, they love to do things by like these policies and procedures. It's like, no, this thing has to be done this way. Check off these boxes and this thing is complete. And we're saying, no, there is like gray area everywhere in life. And we simply need to meet each other wherever we are at. And the more we strive to do that, the better things are going to be. The more we step back and say, oh, this person needs, this type of understanding, this type of compassion. And not everybody's going to be that way to start, but we're headed in the right direction.
Absolutely. So I just want to clarify too, like when we see that vision from the guides and they show us that volcanoes are going off in the Pacific Northwest, or that we're interpreting it that way, we could be wrong. It might be, that it's in Canada. It could be that it's even in Alaska. It feels like it's in that area though. And at the same time, 1.5 years, which would take us to June of 2024, so 1 year from now, that doesn't mean that there hadn't been an attack 3 months, 6 months, maybe even 9 months before that on the U.S. or and the other NATO allies. Only that what we saw was conflict underway here when the volcanoes are going off. They're concurrent. So, again, does that mean that we have a full year to prepare? No, because all the other signs are that this could be triggered any moment now, any moment. But it may be still a ways off. And again, they're going to utilize the timing to their advantage. And it is really coinciding with losing the narrative. If they lose control of the narrative, that's something that's wonderful because that shows awakening. At the same time, it shows that they will play some other cards, because in their view, at the highest level, they view this as a game. They really, really do. And in some ways, you could say this is a learning experience for the soul, with obviously big implications on the 3D playing field. But we should be prepared as much as possible. Again, no rest for the weary. Just make checklists and think about things besides food, besides water, besides power, besides heat, besides cooling. Again, think of all the different things that can go wrong. And I would strongly recommend subscribing to homesteading channels and prepper channels. Can't go wrong spending your time over there in this time, because we are definitely going to see some challenging times.
Definitely.
Much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.